because the Seahawks might be losing DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. They're definitely losing Lockett. They've released him. DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Had 66 catches for just under 1,000 yards and a career-low 5 touchdowns last season. He's played his entire career in Seattle. And here's the depth chart. You see Jackson Smith and Jigba would be the guy left, and then Jake Bobo, and then the other guys, not much. A combined 2 career receptions. Let's bring in Leger Douzable and Mike Renner, because there are a bunch of big-name wide receivers who might be looking for new homes, whether it's free agency, whether it's requesting a trade, and DK Metcalf requesting this trade today. Leger, where would you like to see him go?
Why not go with an old friend, a friend that drafted you, and the Las Vegas Raiders and Pete Carroll? They need a receiver in the worst way. Now, again, they have Jacoby Myers, and obviously Brock Bowers was essentially their #1 receiver last year. But when I bring in a guy that is used to being with Pete Carroll, people wonder, DK Metcalf, is he, a prima donna? Does he have an attitude? Like, Pete Carroll knows how to deal with DK Metcalf because he drafted him and had him on the sideline for multiple years. So, depending on where they go quarterback-wise, whether it's the draft, whether they bring in a veteran like Aaron Rodgers or a Sam Darnold, they need a true #1 outside. They can't just rely on Brock Bowers. DK Metcalf, teaming him up with Pete Carroll makes a lot of sense.
I think the New England Patriots is the team I'm on the lookout for. One, because they have more cap space than anyone else in the NFL. So they can outbid
Raiders right behind them, though.
For DK Metcalf services. True. They can outbid everyone, though, for DK Metcalf services should they want to go get him. And they so desperately need a #1 wide receiver. And there isn't one in free agency. It ain't going to be a guy. Chris Godwin ain't a #1 wide receiver at this point in time. And yeah, you could pick one at #4 overall in the draft, but I think everyone would kind of agree that it would be a reach for a guy like Ted McMillan out of Arizona to take him #4 overall. You'd be passing on some pretty darn good players at other positions. So New England Patriots is the team that, if they want him, he's theirs.
And this page has been changing throughout the day as well as teams like the Cowboys start to free up more cap space. I want to note Jonathan Jones tweeted that the Chargers are among several teams worth watching in the DK Metcalf potential sweepstakes. Let's get to Davante Adams. That's a transition that I'm making for you, Leger, because that's where you'd like to see Adams go. Why?
Without a doubt, right? They need a veteran receiver there. Quentin Johnson has been up and down. Ladd McConkey proved that he could be a high-end up #2. But I think you bring in a guy like Davante Adams, who's been a consummate pro, who down the stretch last year for the Jets actually looked really good. So he's a West Coast kid, right? Maybe he wants to go back to the West Coast and be out there with Coach Harbaugh and Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey. I think they need a veteran guy in that receiving room. Let's not forget, when Justin Herbert was breaking all those records, he had veterans in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. He needs another veteran to throw the football to. I think Davante Adams makes a lot of sense to the Chargers.
Well, I think Davante Adams might end up wherever Aaron Rodgers ends up at this point. But I think if Aaron Rodgers does retire, I like a reunion with the Packers. I think that they obviously have the need of someone with ball skills at this point. You have Romeo Doubs with his concussion issues. You have Christian Watson with a torn ACL. And your top 2 receivers, and Jayden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, those guys have drop issues. Davante Adams, he does not. And you have so many youngsters there. They're another team that could use that veteran presence, that receiver, to show those young guys how to be consistent.
All right, bunch of big-name wide receivers on the free agent block, including Chris Godwin. And Mike, you have him potentially staying in his own division.
Yeah, I have him going to the Carolina Panthers. I think that they're a team that desperately needs someone who can catch the football. I mean, Bryce Young had the 7th highest drop rate from his wide receivers of any quarterback in the NFL last year. Been plagued by drops his first 2 seasons. Made his numbers look a lot worse than he played a year ago. So just get a vet in there. I know Adam Thielen's under contract, but I think at this point, the ropes, it's over for him. Chris Godwin is much younger, 29 years old, can play that similar role. And he didn't drop a single pass last year, Chris Godwin. 50 catches, didn't drop 1. That's the kind of reliability I want if I'm Carolina Panthers.
And the majority of these big-name wide receivers who are free agents, they're in their 30s. They're 30, 31, 32, like a Davante Adams who turns 33 next season. How about Cooper Kupp, Leger? Still a member of the Rams, but sounds like they're going to be trading him.
Yeah, I think for him, a team that he just mentioned, the Carolina Panthers, makes a lot of sense as well. for Cooper Kupp. They had drop issues like Mike talked about, and he's been a consummate pro. Now, the issue with Cooper Kupp is he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Like, I believe it's 3 straight seasons he hasn't completed a 17-game season. But he is Mr. Reliable with the ball in his hands. Now, he's not as explosive, and he never really was explosive. Short area quickness was his game. He knows how to get open and fill those voids in zone coverage. Adam Thielen, he'll be back. He's getting up there in age as well. But I just think when you talk about Bryce Young, having somebody reliable, that's what Cooper Kupp is. So I know Mike likes, Chris Godwin potentially going there. I like Cooper Kupp going to the Panthers.
How about another Cooper to L.A.?
I like Amari Cooper going to L.A. The, obviously, Bills, Cowboys, Browns, everywhere he's been over now, of course, of his career. But they really only have Puka Nacua. You know, you have Jordan Whittington, who was nice, but he is a unique type of wide receiver. You don't have that outside guy. Amari Cooper could be that for them. So I think that you're not going to have, a ton of space to play with if you're the Rams, and there's not a ton of guys to go around to fill that Cooper Kupp role. Maybe you look towards the draft, but obviously if you re-sign Matt Stafford at his age, that window is right now. I think Amari Cooper, he can give you a little at this point, not a lot, and so he won't come for a big hefty price tag. I think that's the reunion, or not the reunion, the spot I like him landing.
Former Buffalo Bills Stephon Diggs, first time in his career where he played fewer than 13 games, limited to 8 with a torn ACL.
Like him going to the Dallas Cowboys, pairing him with CeeDee Lamb. He proved when Nico Collins was banged up with the hamstring injury that he could be a viable number 2 receiver, and we saw that with the Houston Texans. Now, you talked about it as he is coming off a major knee injury. You wonder at this age what type of Stephon Diggs we're going to get. But if you're CeeDee Lamb, you need somebody that can take the attention off of you, somebody that could be a true number 2. That way he could beat the number 2 corner. That way you're not always getting double teamed. I think Stephon Diggs provides that. We saw the Cowboys restructure some money, which means essentially they're trying to go all in. They're going to probably pay Micah Parsons, but they feel like they have a window to win right now. Why not pair CeeDee Lamb and Stephon Diggs?
So many big names in this free agency class for wide receivers, and guys who are asking for trades like DK Metcalf, like Cooper Kupp, who the Rams say they're going to trade. But would you guys say it's more name than game at this point? Pete Prisco loves to say that about guys who might be on the other end of their career.
And most of these receivers are in their 30s. And, when the league looks at you, once you hit like 29, 30 at receiver, they think you're over the hill, right? That's when they think that your play is not going to be up to the standard that they're accustomed to. You talk about Davante Adams, Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp. All these guys are in their 30. So when you look at this list, the 2 guys that are probably going to see the most money if they get traded are T. Higgins and DK Metcalf, and they're way below 30. So, yes, right now, when you talk about the impending free agents, the guys that aren't getting traded, it is probably more name recognition than game currently right now.
Yeah, I would say go back and, 1, look at how old these guys are. 2, look at their stat lines from a year ago. Yeah. There's a reason DeAndre Hopkins and company weren't producing, Amari Cooper weren't the number 1 receivers in their respective places after they got traded last season. It's because Father Time only works in one direction. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. These guys, unfortunately, are going for vet roles to mentor young receivers, not necessarily to be your number 1, number 2 in these places.
Of the wide receivers who appear to be available, and we can throw in DK Metcalf there, guys that are going to be traded, Cooper Kupp, who is the number 1 wide receiver who you can go out and get?
That is going to be actually available,
yeah.
You mean?
If you trade for him, like a Cooper Kupp, or in a free agency role.
I mean, T. Higgins, if you're actually able to trade for him, I think is the number 1 guy. If not, you would have to go DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I think it's T. Higgins. I see him as a number 1 in any other.